Chapter 10. Tracker knew Thorn and Zoey were in trouble when he woke up and realized that Thorn always kept his word, even if Tracker didn't. He had promised Thorn that he would call when he rented a house for the three of them. Tracker was sure that if he didn't call, then Thorn would, but nothing, neither a text nor a call. It was late in the day when he pulled himself out of one of the drunken girls and got out from between the two of them and out of the bed. He jumped to the floor and took a quick shower, dragged up his leather pants, checked his bike for gas, dropped a couple of hundreds on the sheets covering the women, and told them not to be there when he got back. He gunned the Harley and drove as fast as he could. It would have been faster for him if he had shifted, but he needed transportation. The forests weren't as dense as they were in Samseville, and he couldn't risk anyone spotting a large white wolf running through the woods at night. White wolves at night were like black panthers in the snow. Tracker didn't have time to stop. He had to be at the cabin when Damon arrived. When he neared San Diego, he turned off and pulled into the hotel. It was just his instincts telling him to go to the last place Zoey and Thorn had been seen. Parking outside, he sauntered up to the desk. He was in luck. The very same girl who had rented the seaside villa to him was at the desk. "Mr. Samsa, good to see you again. I knew you would come back and sign off on the damages in that suite." The desk clerk, a pretty blonde with long hair about 5 feet with a round face and a nice shape, breasts not too large, a small waist and full behind. Tracker had considered her, but she was too young. She had talked a lot and said she was 18, and that made him think of Sadia. He didn't want to think of Sadia when he checked in. He wanted to forget her. "Did you say there were damages in the suite?" It looked like a wild party. Lamps and tables were broken and furniture overturned, paintings all over the floor, and the bathroom door kicked in. "You said you wanted privacy, and that's why I gave you the section at the far end of the hotel. It was very pricey, and so was the furniture." She glanced up at Tracker, deep in thought. "But I knew you would make things good. My manager said it would be my ass if you didn't come back." "Well, when I come back this way, your ass will be mine," Tracker said, giving her a large closed smile, and she smiled back, but her smile was a lot wider. He glanced up at her. "That is if you're over 18, he said, reaching for the pen. After Tracker signed for the damages and gave her his credit card, he walked out of the door. He didn't know what to think, but he knew one thing, and that was it was not like Thorn to go without calling him and telling him, and it wasn't like Thorn to have a wild party. Something must have happened. He began to get concerned, but then he shook that feeling off. However, his instincts told him something serious had happened to Thorn and Zoey, but he'd said no. Thorn could handle anything that came his way, but his instincts were correct. Something had happened to him. "A Samsa never doubts his instincts," his father would say. "You have good instincts, Tracker. Trust yourself." Wondering why the room had been trashed, he didn't want to spend more time than he had at the hotel. He could have asked to see the room, but he had no doubt that they had cleaned everything and replaced the furniture, and what's more, the chemical used to clean would confuse his senses. Tracker wouldn't be able to track anyone, and he didn't want to risk it alone. 2 werewolves were needed, if whoever it was managed to take Thorn, because Thorn was a powerful young werewolf, and an even powerful one if he was protecting a mate. So if someone had taken them, then it had to be more than one. It was getting late, and the sun wouldn't be up too much longer. He wanted to get to the cabin before Damon, so Tracker rode his Harley at top speed, not thinking about the police or a ticket. That didn't exist in his frame of reference. Everything he wanted to say to Sadia, longing for her body, missing Zoey and wondering where she and Thorn were, built up intense anxiety and worry. But he took it out on his Harley, as he pushed it hard and fast, as he would a woman who was waiting for him to mount her. When he arrived at the cabin, he parked the motorcycle and left it out front. He opened the door and made his way through in the darkness. Darkness was familiar, and he thought nothing of it. When he reached the hall to the bedrooms, he turned the lights on, and walking out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel was a beautiful blonde girl. "Who are you, and how did you get in here?" The door wasn't locked. "I'll ask you only once more. Who are you, and what do you want?" The middle of his forehead furrowed into deep lines of 3 rows. He didn't want any more surprises. His first thoughts were looking at this attractive human. She might have been there to divert his attention, so some of Beau's friends could surround him. But from what he remembered, he had taken care of all of Beau's associates, and scared off the rest. His eyes narrowed into slits, showing the glow of his blue eyes. He stared at the woman as if she was his prey, and he was ready to pounce on her and eat her alive. With Tracker on guard, a faint growl eased from his lips. His nostrils flared. His breathing intensified. She smiled, not intimidated by him, and said, "I'm whomever you want me to be." She dropped the towel and stood naked in front of him. He tried not to be aroused, but he smelled the scent she wanted him to get. It was the scent of a woman in heat, which aroused the wolf in him. The human part of him was more cautious, but the wolf part dominated for now. He tried to hide his desire, to no avail. It showed in the flush of his face, the glow in his eyes, the swell of his length, and the low hiss and whimper submitting to an alpha female. Controlling his behavior, he said, "Who are you looking for?" Tracker's eyes watched her every move, and lay on her like a blanket on a cold night, not because he was fearful of anything, but because she was so damn tempting. "I'm looking for Damon, but since you're here and he isn't," she said, walking close to him. He smelled her hair, he smelled her neck, and he looked up and saw the full moon. It was either chase a deer, or accept his good luck, and make the best of it until Damon showed. Damon was the omega of Lysel's yearlings. He had been pushed aside, been the last at everything, but he was always trying to gain prominence with Tracker. "Are you my brother's girlfriend?" He wanted to get that out of the way fast. There was no way he would enter into that kind of relationship. It wasn't good for him and his brothers. He saw the jealousy that had occurred in his family, with his father and Uncle Wilder constantly at it, with his mother in between, and trying to satisfy all 3 brothers. It was like a pack of male wolves with one she-wolf. From what he knew of wolves, they were relentlessly trying to mate with the she-wolf and have pups. Sooner or later the males would tear each other apart, just to be with that one female, he thought. "I won't touch my brother's female, and I won't enter into a threesome." Tracker had to get that out. He was a lot of things, but he wouldn't betray his brothers, or fight over a female who didn't belong to him. This was the Samsa way, and they obeyed their father and mother's laws. Because Wilder, Lysel, and Drayton behaved in this manner, they knew their boundaries, and they would never break the pack apart by fighting each other. "Of course, I don't belong to Damon. I don't belong to anyone. He sent me a message to bring to you. He said that he had to double back home, because of urgent business, and he would meet you here in the morning." "Are you a shifter?" "Of course not, can't you tell?" She baited him with his own ego. Tracker, in his arrogance, was going to be fooled one more time. Not anyone could have duped Tracker, but a shifter with the unusual powers to shift to a woman or man could disguise and fool anyone. And Sadia had those powers. She had discovered it and hid it from everyone except her mother, Mina. Besides, no one would believe it anyway. Mina told her not to tell anyone, not even her father, because it was a rare occurrence, and other shifters would be suspicious of her and shun her. She was always a rare bird who no one understood, and she didn't realize until recently why humans and shifters reacted to her the way they did. Although Sadia could change back and forth, there was a price to pay. She knew it. Each time she changed, she saw some changes in herself. Before, her eyes were dark, then golden brown, but now they were constantly sky blue. Her hair was changing as well. The dominance of her dark hair had given way to lighter colors. Those were just some of the things she noticed were happening to her since she had unleashed her powers and had begun to mature. Now she was taking another chance with Tracker, hoping that when she revealed to him what she was, he wouldn't reject her. The only way she could break it to him was to show him. "Why don't you relax? Damon won't be here until morning." Damon had called Sadia and asked her to meet Tracker there, since she knew the location, and of course she would. "Damon said he tried calling you, and you didn't answer." Tracker reached in his pockets for his phone. He had left in a hurry, and left it on the counter in the small villa in Mexico. "Relax. Tracker. Is that your name?" "Yes." Tracker walked in the direction of the restroom. "Tracker. Do you have a girlfriend?" Her voice was easy and soft. "No. Don't ask me that again." His voice was abrupt, gruff and low. Sadia felt dejected, but she wouldn't let a little thing like that stop her. She wanted to be in his arms, and she would do her best to get there before she confessed to him, and before morning set in when Damon would walk through the door. "Are you going to stand in front of me naked, or will you do what you came here for? Let's get this over with." "I have things to do," Tracker said coolly, but his eyes were warm and his body hot with arousal. "What do you mean?" "I mean you wouldn't be standing naked in front of me if you didn't want me to fuck you." "You are right. This is my intention. To let you fuck me. And I know what your intentions are, and they are the same as mine," Sadia said. She fell to her feet, hurried into the bathroom, leaving Sadia feeling used. It was Tracker's nature. It was part of not being captured by any woman because he was wild, and he wanted to stay that way. He didn't want to give up his freedom, and because of this, he had made up his mind to roam the land. But now he had been brought back where he didn't want to be, and he would have to make the best of it. When he walked out of the restroom after a quick shower, he said, "Lie down on the bed. Since you came here and woke a sleeping wolf," he barked, "you have to suffer the consequences of my insatiable desires." Tracker's intentions were to make every female he came into contact with wish she had never thought about controlling him. He grabbed. Only a werefemale could have taken that kind of abuse and still held up under his pressure. He still didn't realize it was a werefemale he was sleeping with. When Tracker woke expecting to see the blonde woman in his arms, and feeling excited and wanting to get in another round of the same, he sat up and peered at the woman next to him. He had to wipe his eyes and look again. He jumped from the bed in terror. "Not again," he murmured, then louder with a snarl and barking sound, "Not you again. How did you do that?" He kept questioning, until Sadia opened her eyes and smiled. "This is the last time this will ever happen between you and me." "That is not for you to say," Sadia said as a warning to him. "Why are you trying to deny what we have together?" "We have nothing together. You are nothing more than a deceitful little bitch, and I mean it in the sense that you are a wolf." "I know what you mean. You don't have to apologize to me." "I'm not apologizing. I don't apologize to any man or woman, werewolf or werefemale, because I'm an alpha werewolf. And I'm your alpha female." "I don't have one." "Yes, you do. You just don't want to accept it," Sadia said. Damon waltzed through the living room, following the sound of Tracker and Sadia's voice. Tracker's back was to Damon. Tracker standing naked, and Sadia lying naked. She reached for the sheet, and Tracker threw one over her to cover her from Damon's prying eyes. "I see you two have found each other once more," Damon said. "Did you have anything to do with this?" Tracker said. "Of course not. If you had answered your phone, we wouldn't be here, but off to Flagstaff trying to rescue our brother." "What do you mean?" Tracker walked into the restroom and reached for a large towel and wrapped it around his waist. Damon was following behind him. If you and Sadia weren't busy making pups, you would have answered your phone. I left my phone in Mexico. Now, tell me what you're talking about, and stop with that talk about me and Sadia. There is no me and Sadia. Not from where I'm lying, Sadia said, smiling up at Tracker. Stop it, Sadia, Tracker said with a snarl and raise of his lips. Sadia backed up. Someone has taken Thorn. What about Zoey? Sadia's eyes narrowed at the question of Zoey. It's possible someone has them both and holding them hostage. He paused. Father received Thorn's finger in the mail wrapped in a box. It had been frozen. We don't know how long it was taken from him, and a request for $500,000. That's not much considering our fortune, Tracker said. But Father doesn't care if it's $5 he's refusing to pay. He said if they were able to cut his finger off, he may be already dead. No one can do that to a werewolf, unless he is being chained down. Father is heartbroken. Where's Mother? He doesn't want to tell her. I had to convince him to stay home and comfort Mother if we can't bring Thorn back alive. You know how Father is. When his emotions are involved, he goes crazy. I thought it best for me and you to get our brother and bring him home. Sadia listened, and the name Zoey kept running around in her mind, yet she couldn't remember where she had heard that name. It was mentioned once, and it didn't stick. It was just a random name among all the other names she had heard. Yet it bothered her that she didn't remember, and that it was connected to Tracker. Maybe it was because she saw the concern on Tracker's face about Thorn, which caused her to forget. The note said to bring the money to Flagstaff. How soon can you be ready, Damon? Tracker said. I'm ready now. I haven't been. He glanced at Sadia, and out of respect he said, I haven't been sleeping all night, but it's not a problem. He snickered and turned away from Sadia. I'm coming too, Sadia said. Damon and Tracker glanced at Sadia with a snarl. I have something that may be useful. She looked to Tracker. Tell him, Tracker, Sadia said. She's sort of a mage. Damon slanted his head. A magician, a chameleon. She can change herself into another woman. Or man, Sadia said with a mischievous grin. Oh, you are dangerous, Tracker said, backing away and picking up his knapsack, then changing to a pair of cloth jeans and a lumberjack shirt. I don't want you to come, but if you don't listen, and I doubt that you will, I will not be responsible for you. Strutting away as Tracker watched at her with anticipation of another night with her on all fours, and with him mounting her, he smiled. She turned around, feeling Tracker's eyes, and said, I don't need your protection, I can take care of myself. And she shot Tracker a wink,